This is The Sports Life.
Here we go. Clark comes off the screen. She's got a look. Fires it. Count it! Caitlin Clark for three.
Oh my God!
What a finish!
Oh my God!
Hawks win.
Holy cow!
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, that was Rob Brooks, and they were describing a Caitlin Clark game-winning shot from three. How many times did she do that, Dalton, in her career?
We have way too many audio clips of the same shot happening of Caitlin Clark.
You know, you just put them on a loop. Hey, I need a game-winning shot. Well, there's like 5 of them over here for Caitlin Clark.
That's right.
Well, today in our show, it's kind of a neat show. We're going to be visiting with Phil Steele. And Phil he really is a unique individual because I don't think, Dalton, there's anybody on planet Earth that going into a season knows more about what may happen than Phil. And we're going to take a hard look at the Big Ten and what we think may or may not happen with kickoff just around the corner.
It's unbelievable. Feels like summer's come and gone, but yeah, football is right around the corner, and there is nobody who can keep up with the ever-changing rosters like Phil Steele can.
It feels that way, Dalton, because it happened.
That's right.
Where did summer go? I don't know.
Wild.
Anyway, let's talk about the sounds of the week.
That's right. That shot that we played at the top, of course, was from 2023, a game winner against Indiana. Well, later on in that season, the 2022 to 2023 basketball season, Iowa would go to the Final Four. It would end up in a national runner-up finish for the Hawkeyes. So let's listen to the final moments of the win over Louisville in the Elite Eight to make it to the Final Four with the voice of Iowa women's basketball, Rob Brooks.
No timeouts for the Hawkeyes, so Kate just has to get it in bounds. Gets it into Molly Davis, who will just hold it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Jamie, there's going to be a lot of sleepless in Seattle tonight.
Oh, I won't be sleeping.
The Hawks head to Dallas for the Final Four for the first time since 1993.
Well, it's interesting that not only did they make the Final Four, which in itself is a big deal, but as we think back at that era in women's basketball, we're only talking 2023.
Right.
The impact the Iowa program had and Caitlin Clark had on the overview, people taking a look at how this sport of women's basketball had evolved, it brought so many good things. Good for Iowa to get to the Final Four, but good for the sport of women's basketball.
100%. I mean, what women's basketball became really from this run, what it birthed is truly amazing. And, of course, the next game, when they're in Dallas and in the Final Four, they would upset South Carolina, coached by Dawn Staley, and that would set up that championship game against LSU that we already know all the TV rating numbers that came out of that phenomena between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Well, in basketball in 2023, that wasn't the only exciting thing for the Big Ten because on the men's side, number one was Purdue yet again. The Boilermakers been really hanging at the top of the country for a handful of years now, but Rutgers was able to upset number one Purdue in West Lafayette. At Mackey Arena. Nobody wins at Mackey, but the Scarlet Knights get it done here. Here's what it sounded like with the voice of Rutgers men's basketball, Jerry Recco.
Come near side Spencer, back to Paul. Paul around his screen from Cliff. Mulcahy on the wing, 18 seconds left. Mulcahy, kick it out Spencer. Slide left, shoot the three for the lead. Yeah! With 13.3 to go, Rutgers up 65-64. Morton has it. 4:10 to go. Rutgers by 1. The lob. It'll be knocked away. And that's it. Final second off the clock. And for the second time in 2 years, Rutgers has beaten the number one team in the country. And for the second time in 2 years, it's Purdue. But this time, they do it on the road at Mackey Arena.
When I saw that score, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Nobody wins at Mackey.
I don't think you're alone. I mean, it was impressive. And, of course, Purdue was on a dominant tear, but Rutgers, for whatever reason, they've just had the Boilermakers' number at times.
I just think it's crazy. But, you know, he mentioned in his description at the end there that wasn't the first time they have beaten the the number one Boilermakers.
That's right, because the year prior, what had happened was, of course, the game-winning shot by Ron Harper Jr. This is one of those where were you type moments in Big Ten basketball, where Rutgers knocks off number one Purdue. Let's go back to what that sounded like, as you said, the season prior. We'll hear again with Jerry Recco.
Get it to Stefanovic. Inside Williams with 7. One-on-one with Amori. Gets inside, puts it up and in with 3.4 to go. Get it to Harper with 3, with 2, with 1. Harper for the win. Got it! Let's go! Let's go! Harper Jr. Let's go! The game winner at the buzzer. Let's go! And Rutgers upsets number one Purdue 70-68. Let's go! First time in program history that they have beaten a number one team. But they're going to check the tape. Score the basket. Ball game. Let's go! And the student stormed the court.
Where's it going?
I think by an unofficial counter, we have 7 let's goes there from the Rutgers radio crew.
Well, it was an amazing thing with that Harper shot. It really was when you think about it. But what are the odds that Rutgers, not known to be a national powerhouse in basketball overall, would knock off in back-to-back years a number one team, let alone the same number one team?
It's simply kind of unfathomable. First, for Purdue to be at the top 2 years in a row when they play Rutgers, and then Rutgers knocks them off both times. But, I mean, we talked about that shot and how unbelievable that was. Do you remember what the student radio call was like? I think we should bring that out for some of the listeners who have never gotten to hear that moment.
I'm ready.
All right, here it goes.
0.4 to go. Harper Jr. crossing that timeline. No timeout. Crossing the timeline. Last second heave. Oh, it's good. Down go the Boilermakers. Down. The train is off the tracks. The train is off the tracks. The train is off the tracks. Down goes number one. Oh, my goodness. The train is off the tracks.
Well, if the train is off the tracks, that means they can't go on the train, right?
That's right.
They can't do that.
But what a fun call that is, too,
yeah.
huh?
Well, if Rutgers can beat Purdue this year, I think Coach Peichel should have a clinic of some kind to give everybody the magic key. Here's how you beat Purdue.
This is how you beat the Giants.
This is how you beat the Giants.
That is unbelievable. What a fun moment that was, and what great history that's given us here in recent years for the Big Ten. As you mentioned, too, I mean, we've been talking, Will, this is 2023 we're celebrating, and as we've been working our way towards kickoff of the upcoming season, that means we're just a couple of weeks away from football being played in the Big Ten, as we'll conclude this series getting to kickoff with the year 2025. But before we get there and we round out the year 2023, of course, that season, the Big Ten had a national championship, the first one in since about a decade, since Ohio State had done it with the first ever college football playoffs. This one, it was the Michigan Wolverines in 2023 becoming national champions. They defeated the Washington Huskies in the national championship game, and here's what it sounded like with the voice of the Wolverines, Doug Karsh, and you also get to hear from head coach at that time, Jim Harbaugh, afterwards as well.
JJ takes the snap, flips the ball to Roman Wilson after he takes a knee, and Michigan, the Wolverines, have won a national championship. Wolverine players, Wolverine alums, Michigan fans everywhere, Jim Harbaugh and your staff, your team is the number one team in America as the clock ticks down and Michigan completes a 15-0 national championship season.
Glorious win. Could not be happier or prouder. Our team, 15-0. Yeah, took on all comers. Last one standing. It's a great feeling. Just so happy for our players, for our parents, for their grandparents, our coaches. For me personally, I can now sit at the big person's table in the family. They won't keep me over there on the little table anymore. My dad, Jack Harbaugh, won a national championship, and my brother won a Super Bowl. So it's good to be at the big person table from now on.
Actually, that's a pretty good line when you think about it.
It is.
It's Thanksgiving. I get to sit at the big table. Yeah, that's good. A great year for Michigan football. They go undefeated and win the national championship in 2023. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, a great chat with Phil Steele in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
You hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, in 1995, Phil Steele and his company produced its first edition of the Phil Steele's College Football Preview. And since that time, this annual publication has become college football's preview gold standard. And joining us on the Sports Life today is Phil Steele. And Phil, thanks for giving us your time and talking about the upcoming Big Ten football season. But I've asked you this before. I'm going to ask you this again. For those who aren't sure how all this started, how did you get going down this path?
Yeah, that's a great question. Back in 1993, I was writing a football newsletter, and I would try to compile the information for all the schools, and I would buy every college preseason magazine that was on the market. Back then, there was like 30 of them, and I would write down all the notes on the teams, and you know what? Sometimes I couldn't even fill out a starting lineup for some teams. There just wasn't enough information in the magazine, so I started compiling all the information myself, getting the rosters, keeping stats on every single player, making notes on the players. And I think it was 1995. Someone came in and said, "Hey, why don't you turn this into a magazine?" So I did. That first year in 1995, it was black and white. It was newsprint. I only covered 88 teams back then. I think the magazine was only 180 pages. Now we're up to covering 136 teams, full color, 2 full pages on each team. It's 360 pages right now. And I think my favorite part of the job right now is probably talking to the head coaches. This year I talked to 125 of the 136 head coaches, compiling the information for the magazine. But it's a long 7-month process to put this thing out each year.
We had assumed your favorite part was talking to the radio people, but we won't hold that against you, Phil. But we're going to dive into, you talk about 136 teams, we're going to dive into, for the most part, 18 of them. But I want to ask you, while we're talking about the process and just this publication in general, today's landscape is a lot different than it used to be back when you started this in 1995. The rosters are changing almost every minute, it feels like, with transfer portal, arrivals, departures. How have you found a way to keep this magazine in this preview so up to date in a time where it's consistently changing like it never has?
Yeah, and it's made it a really tough month of May for me because we have to wait till the second transfer portal closes and then give it about 5 weeks so we capture all the signings. And there's a lot of signings going on in the month of May. And that's when I start my coaches' interviews, is actually after the second transfer portal is closed. So it's a pretty hectic final 5 weeks of the magazine trying to get it out. But the good news is, by sending the magazine to the press later than we used to be able to go to the press in the middle of May. Now it's after the first week of June. We're able to capture every single move, and we basically have 99% of the players captured. There might be 1 or 2 players that snuck through, but hardly anybody. And it's made it a lot more difficult, though. A very hectic month of May.
Well, Phil, we've asked you to join us to talk about the Big Ten. So why don't we start by looking at the top? How do you see the top of the conference this year?
You know, I think the Big Ten's going to get 4 playoff bids this year. And the 3 top teams that I think all will definitely get a playoff bid are Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. Taking a quick look at Oregon, they did lose a lot to the NFL draft, 10 NFL players, but Dan Lanning's doing a great job compiling talent there. And, you know, it's going to be tough replacing Dylan Gabriel, but Dante Moore was one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school. Now, he didn't look great at UCLA in his first year as the starting QB, but he has a better supporting cast here. It's his second year in the system, and he's now a redshirt junior, so I think he's going to have a good year. Maybe not what Dylan Gabriel did, but a solid year. Offensive line, they got 4 very talented guys up front. I really like the additions that Lanning did in the portal, and defensively, they're sound. I actually only have Oregon an underdog in 1 game this year at Penn State. I think they have a good year. With Ohio State, they lost 14 players the NFL draft, and they are now number 105 on my experience chart, a much less experienced team. Now, last year, Ohio State had a lot of players turn down the NFL, opt to return for their senior season just to get that get the national championship, and they did. They are a talented team throughout, but they're not as experienced, and there's quarterback questions. You look at the defense, especially up front, they lose so many players the NFL draft. I think Ohio State's a strong team. With the schedule actually sets up well for them. They're probably going to be favored in all 12 games, but I do think they slip up once or twice. And when I look at Penn State this year, Penn State's a team that sort of fits the criteria of what Michigan and Ohio State had going on the last 2 years, and it is a lot of players that could have gone to the NFL, opted to return. They only lost 5 NFL draft picks. They've got players like Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant up front on the D-line that could have been high NFL draft picks. They've got Drew Aller coming back at quarterback, one of the few top teams that returned their veteran quarterback. They have my number 1 set of running backs in the country, number 1 offensive line, and they don't hit the portal often, but they did at the wide receiver position where they bring in Kyron Hudson from USC, Trevor Pena from Syracuse, and Devontae Ross coming in from Troy. They are a homegrown team, and I did a blog on philsteele.com, which is about teams that recruit freshmen. And Ohio State, as an example, last year had 7 or 8 transfers, but it was basically a homegrown team. Penn State fits in that category, and I think this is the year James Franklin breaks through. I like the fact they got playoff experience last year. It's actually the first time in the 31 years of my magazine that I picked Penn State to win it all.
You know, Phil, it's amazing. You talk about the experience element to this, and not to say, I mean, Penn State is extremely experienced, but also very talented. You mentioned the running backs of Singleton, Allen coming back, Drew Aller is back. But when you look at Ohio State, too, you're talking about maybe the two best players in the country, you could argue at least, with Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. My question to you isn't so much to knock Penn State, but do you see Ohio State as more talented than Penn State, just lacking experience, or do you have Penn State right there with them in talent?
No, I think Penn State's right there with them in talent. And let's keep in mind, Ohio State was dominant in the playoff last year, right? Won the national championship, and that was with a senior-laden team where everybody turned down the NFL. They lost 2 games in the regular season. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Michigan. They didn't even win the Big Ten last year. They did end up winning it all in the playoff. This year's team is less experienced. They are talented, but I think Penn State's got this very close talent-wise, maybe even more talent, especially experienced talent. They have a large edge.
Well, we're visiting with Phil Steele, the brains behind the publication. It's the Bible of all college sports. It's Phil Steele's College Football Preview. And when we come back with more of our chat with Phil, we're going to ask him about teams to watch for. But first, a break right here on The Sports Life.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's get it done right with some help. Fight!
Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of The Sports Life. We'll team here along with Dalton Shetler and have somewhat of a special edition of our show this week as we're visiting with Phil Steele, who puts out this wonderful publication every year called Phil Steele's college football preview. And we're asking Phil to go through the Big Ten with us and see what may be in front of us as kickoff is not too far away. Well, Phil, we've talked about what you think the Big Ten looks like at the top. What about teams to watch for? Is there an Indiana team out there this year that's going to surprise everybody?
Well, I don't think we're going to find a team that was 3-9 last year that makes the playoff, but I do think we have some legitimate playoff contenders that are not your normal household team names. Now, naturally, Michigan would have to be included in a playoff contender, but Illinois. And, Illinois last year went 10-3. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't blown away with them. I don't know if they were really a 10-3 team. Their best games were when they beat Michigan at home and then, of course, the bowl game. But this year's team, probably a touchdown better than last year's squad. Almost everybody's back. Luke Altmaier at quarterback. They've got Fegan and Lowry at running back. Brett Bielema has just compiled an outstanding offensive line, and they're basically all back from last year. They've got Akis and Thompson up front on the defense. Xavier Scott and Torrey Cox, one of the better cornerback combos. I'm really anxious to watch the Illinois-Indiana game September 20th. I think that could be a playoff elimination game. Winner really keeps their playoff hopes alive. Loser, it's going to be tough to get there. And then also watch Illinois Week 7. Last year they took on the defending national champ at home Week 7 and beat Michigan. They get the defending national champ at home Week 7 in Ohio State. They're a much more veteran team. That could be an upset right there. Indiana has to be in the mix. And, last year when I went over to a team with Coach Signetti, I was impressed. This year, they're probably even more talented than last year. Now, will they get the same quarterback play? I mean, Curtis Work had a 29-5 ratio. Well, I'm a big Fernando Mendoza fan. I thought he did a great job at Cal. They've got Hemby and Blackback at running back, and Hemby, I think, is a big-time addition at running back. Offensive line returns, and defensively, they've returned stars at all three levels. Mikel Kamara at the defensive end spot, Aiden Fisher at linebacker, D'Angelo Ponza in the secondary. This is a very good Indiana team. Now, last year, they only faced one team that had a winning record on the road. This year, they have to play Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State all on the road, plus, of course, that big game against Illinois. But I would give them a shot at making it. If you're looking for two teams that could surprise that only won 7 games last year, one of them's USC. And when you look under the covers a little bit more on USC, you see that last year they really could have been 11-0 at one point in the season. They had 5 really close losses. You go back to the Michigan game, they gave up a long run by Mullins and then the 4th and goal conversion. The Penn State, they led almost start to finish, lost that thing in overtime. The Maryland game, they're kicking a game-clinching field goal to go up by 9. It gets blocked. Maryland returns it to midfield and scores a late touchdown to beat them by 1. Twice they got stopped inside downs on the 10-yard line against Washington. USC might have the best defense Lincoln Riley's put on the field now that he's hired Danton Lynn. And offensively, I think they're going to be strong. And then keep your eyes on Nebraska. It's Matt Rule's 3rd year. Generally has success in the 3rd year. And they've got a schedule that really sets up well. They get Michigan, USC, Iowa, all at home. You look at the road games this year, Maryland, Minnesota, UCLA, Penn State. Very manageable schedule. I think Dylan Raiola, makes a big step up at the quarterback position after having some freshman moments last year. Overall, this is a talented Nebraska team that I think could be a playoff contender as well. So those would be the top teams that can have a shot at taking that 4th playoff spot for the Big Ten.
Phil, I've got 2 questions kind of sprouting off of that. One, we've covered already. You have Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon as that top 3 group. Tied for 5th, you just laid out there Illinois, Indiana, USC, Nebraska. But at 4th, ahead of the tie, you do have Michigan. I was curious, what about the Wolverines has impressed you enough to break them away from that conglomerate that's tied for 5th in your rankings?
Yeah, it would probably be the schedule. And I think when you look at Michigan, they took a step back last year because, like I mentioned with Ohio State, they're a lot less experienced. And they were only number 117 on the experience chart. This year, they're much more experienced. They've got a quarterback in Bryce Underwood that's very dangerous. I think he's going to have a really good year. And defensively, their defensive front 7 is one of the best in the country. They're just absolutely loaded. And I like teams with good defenses. The more I've looked at Michigan, though, guys, since the magazine was out, looking at their road schedule, they do play Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC, all on the road this year. I might have picked him for fifth. It was maybe my computer had him up there at the fourth spot. I actually am probably a little more bullish since I started doing the radio show circuit here on Illinois, Indiana than I am on Michigan at this point. But that's where I picked Michigan, so I gotta ride with it.
Well, we won't hold you to it. And things can change. We haven't even kicked off the season yet. But Phil, you mentioned Nebraska as a part of that tied for fifth, and I feel like whenever Nebraska comes up, year after year, it's become at least my annual tradition of believing in them and thinking they're ready to break through, and it just hasn't quite happened yet. Tell me why this year is different and the Huskers with Matt Rule break through.
Yeah, I think it goes to Matt Rule and now veteran quarterback in Dylan Raiola. And you go back to prior to Matt Rule, let's face it, it was Scott Frost, and we all wonder about the Scott Frost experiment and how that ended. But Matt Rule has come in and pretty much done almost as expected. I mean, the first year they had the shot of making the bowl game, but then lost their last 4 games. Last year, I picked him as one of my most improved teams, so I expected him to get to a bowl. They all of a sudden got to 5-1 and then dropped 4 games. I'm like, oh no, it's not going to happen again. Then they finally broke through, and then they won their bowl game as well to give them some confidence. It is year 3, and talking to Coach Rule back in his days at Temple, talking to Coach Rule at Baylor, and now at Nebraska, each time I saw the progression of the team, and I see the progression here. I think it's going to be your typical Matt Rule third year, and he's won 10 games in each of his last 2 spots.
Well, Phil, as you look at the bottom of this Big Ten, who do you think could be in for a really long year?
I have to start with Purdue because that team is just, first of all, Barry Odom did a great job at UNLV, no doubt about it. But this is the Big Ten, and maybe you can bring in a ton of transfers like they have. Out of their 119 players, 82 of them are brand new this year. So it's practically a new team from last year. I think when you look at the offense, they have basically they have one starter back overall on this team. Now they're trying to put together a team. They're playing a tough schedule, my number 13 rated schedule in the country. And when I look at favored underdog, I have them favored in their first 2 games and then underdog their final 10 games. I think it could be a long season for Purdue. And that's probably the team I think that's going to struggle the most because of the fact they're a completely brand new team. And going back to my homegrown blog that I had on philsteele.com, I think a lot of these teams that are massively into the transfer portal, at least the first year of a first-year head coach, are going to struggle. Go back to the Big 12 for a minute. Arizona State with Dillingham, Colorado with Sanders. In their first year, ton of transfers. Guess what? Both had losing seasons. It took them till the second year till they gained some traction, and both had good years in their second year. But a first-year head coach with all those transfers, Purdue's going to struggle.
Phil, there's a couple other programs that we find pretty interesting, one of them being who you have slated at 9th right now, the Iowa Hawkeyes. We actually read this stat last week. It was tweeted out by Ben Stevens that since 2020, Iowa is 32-1 when scoring at least 21 points. Phil, is this the year that they light up the scoreboard? The offense is there.
Yeah, I believe it will be. And first of all, I love the addition of Mark Gronowski at the quarterback spot. He led South Dakota State to 2 national titles. He's a dangerous runner and thrower. And let's take a little look at Iowa the last 3 or 4 years. They basically lose their starting quarterback every year, and their offensive line, starting in 2021, was a work in progress. I think the offensive line's finally back being where Iowa's offensive line is expected to be. They've got like Logan Jones at center, one of the best in the country. They've got Dunker and Stevens outside. You look at the quarterback spot, as long as Gronowski stays healthy, I love this unit. And then the receiving core, I think, is upgraded this year. Add in, Jacob Gill came over last year. I think he's going to have a better impact. They've got Seth Anderson there. Weegan is a dangerous return man that's going to be a better receiver. The big question is who's going to replace Caleb Johnson. But at this time last year, they didn't have a Caleb Johnson. He emerged. So I would expect out of the Moulton, Washington, Patterson thing, someone will emerge. Defensively, Last year Iowa gave up some points. They gave up 18 points per game. That's great for most teams, but for Iowa, it was a little down. I don't think they were as dominant as usual. I think they'll be back to their normal dominant self on defense. So they're a dangerous team. One of the reasons I didn't pick Iowa higher was the schedule. They have to play Rutgers on the road. I think Wisconsin's going to be a tough road game, but they host Penn State. They host Oregon. Those are two of the playoff contenders I have, which means that a lot of winnable games are on the road, including a non-conference slate against Iowa State. So the schedule kept me down, but as long as Kirk Ferentz is there, they always have a shot.
Phil, it's interesting. I look at teams I think that have good coaching, but somehow can't quite get over the hump, and I want to hone in on Minnesota just a moment. I think that's a tough place to win, but I think Coach Fleck does a pretty good job there. Where do you think they're going to wind up this year?
I think they've got a shot at 8 or 9 wins. When I look at them, going over the squad with Coach Fleck, he's pretty confident in this year's bunch. And almost every year, they surpass my expectations. Now, last year they had a really good quarterback in Max Brosmer. He had 18 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, really was the big leader. They're going with a redshirt freshman this year, but Drake Lindsey, Coach Fleck told me, is the most progressed of any redshirt freshman quarterback he's ever had. They've got Darius Taylor. Defensively, they look sound. They do lose their defensive coordinator for the second straight year, but you look at their schedule. Buffalo at home, Northwestern State, at Cal, all those winnable. Rutgers at home, winnable. Purdue at home, winnable. The Nebraska game, probably a key. They'll be favored against Michigan State, favored against Wisconsin, favored at Northwestern. The only 3 games I have an underdog, a true underdog in all year, are at Ohio State, at Iowa, and at Oregon. So they won 8 games last year, and Fleck, of course, wins bowl games. This could get towards a double-digit win season. If he goes, let's say, 9-3 during the regular season, they could get there with a 10th win in the bowl. I like the job Coach Fleck's doing, and I think you hit it on the head, Will. This Coach Fleck is doing more with less talent, I believe.
And by the way, all of this is laid out in Phil Steele's magazine. Can't stress enough to make sure that you check that out and grab some even more information than you're hearing right here. But I wanted to ask you real quick, Phil, the 2 teams you have tied for 14th, they're both pretty interesting to me because it's Michigan State and UCLA, 2 programs that have second-year head coaches. For Michigan State, it's Jonathan Smith. UCLA, Deshaun Foster. UCLA made a lot of headlines this offseason because Nico, the Tennessee transfer, found his way to West Hollywood, and he's going to be playing for the Bruins. Meanwhile, Michigan State has quietly put together one of the best receiving corps in the entire Big Ten Conference. What stands out to you about both of those schools?
Well, for both of them, they have a second-year head coach. And, I've been doing this for 31 years, and every second-year head coach I ever talked to is like, wow, things are so much better. We know the players know the system, and it's always a big upgrade. So I think both teams are much better than their first year coming in. Let's start with UCLA. Nico Iamaleava is a guy that is solid. I don't think he's overwhelming. He had some good games. He had some bad games at Tennessee. But I think Deshaun Foster knows how to coach, and he's got a more talented team than he had last year. And look at last year. I mean, they started out playing Indiana, LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. Well, a lot of teams are going to be 1-4 when those are your first to 4 opponents in the year, but they finished really strong down the stretch. I still look at the fact that they lost a lot. They're relying on the portal. They're playing a tough schedule. In fact, the 8th toughest schedule in the country, and that's why I picked them down there. And same thing with Michigan State. The schedule was probably the main thing. First of all, absolutely love Joe Rossi as a defensive coordinator. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. Then you take a look at him offensively. Last year, Aiden Childs had his ups and downs, as you would expect out of any freshman. I mean, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 4 fumbles. So turnovers were a problem. He should be much improved, especially as you touched on, Dalton, with Nick Marsh and Jack Velling and Omari Kelly all to throw to. They're going to be very dangerous with the receiving core. And the offensive line should be better than last year. Keep in mind, last year, it was practically a brand new team. Very little starting experience coming back. This year, they should be in better shape. And also last year, how about all those injuries they had in the secondary? That's going to really help them this year because a lot of players were thrown into the fire last year. And I think they will be able to blitz a little bit more now that they've got a stronger secondary. But the thing I hate about Michigan State is the schedule. I mean, you've got a home game against Michigan, home game against Penn State. Those are two games that they're going to be an underdog in. The one Big Ten home game that they have in Spartan Stadium is UCLA, and I've got them favored in that. But even the Maryland games being played in Detroit at the end of the year, and then you're talking about 5 Big Ten road games, and they're all against quality teams: USC, Nebraska, Indiana, Minnesota, Iowa. There's a really good chance that at least heading into the season, it looks like Michigan State's going to be favored in 2 of their 7 Big Ten games. But like I said, Rossi's going to do a great job with the defense. It's the second year. I think both teams are improved, but it might not show up that much record-wise.
Well, we're visiting with Phil Steele, and when we come back with more of the sports life, we're going to wrap up our little chat about what may happen this season in the Big Ten. But first, a timeout.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetland. Don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners make sense for you. Visiting today with Phil Steele, who puts out this annual publication, College Football Preview. It's an amazing one. And before I ask you about big picture stuff for the Big Ten, Phil, I do want to touch on a couple of guys who are leading programs that seem to be, they're kind of in neutral. They can't quite shift to overdrive. And I want to talk a little bit, if you would, about Wisconsin and Rutgers.
Yeah, start with Wisconsin. Luke Fickell, I do think, is an outstanding head coach. Now, when he came in, they tried to shift to a little bit more of a passing offense. Didn't work out. This year, they're going back to more of a running offense. Excuse me. I like the fact he picked up Billy Edwards at quarterback. He's a guy that can run and pass. Outstanding offensive line. It's a really good and dangerous Wisconsin team. Much like I just talked about, though, with Michigan State and UCLA. The thing I hate about Wisconsin is their schedule. It's actually the toughest schedule in the country. They have to play Alabama on the road. And then you look at all the big boys in the Big Ten. Well, guess what? Wisconsin plays every single one of them. Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. Where's your breather? Well, they got one game against Maryland at home. So the schedule's difficult. I think Fickell is on the hot seat. But if he gets his team to a bowl game, they should stick with him because I think he is a really good head coach. And we'll get this thing turned around. And they could pull some surprises. And with Rutgers, they had the schedule that was tailor-made for a big season last year. But what happened, their defense mid-season got all banged up. And all of a sudden, they're giving up 42 to Wisconsin, 35 to UCLA, 42 to USC. They basically had 6, 7 starters out during that stretch. The defense got better at the end of the year. They finished 7-6. Probably should have won the bowl game. I mean, they led Kansas State by double digits late in the fourth quarter. I think this is Schiano's best team since he's returned, but he also takes on a tougher schedule. Whereas last year they had a manageable schedule. This year they've got 5 Big Ten road games, which would be an underdog in each. And then they host Oregon. They host Penn State. They host Iowa. They'll probably be an underdog in all those games. So I think with Rutgers, this is the most talented team Schiano's had. They will pull an upset or two. I'm going to call for this. They've lost 41 straight games to ranked teams. I'm going to call for them to end that streak. They'll knock off somebody, but they may not top last year's record despite being a more talented team.
That is a wild stat. That's going to be something to pay attention to during the course of the season. Phil, I'm going to take you way back to the beginning. We talked about Ohio State entering this season and, of course, defending national champions. And you back it up a year prior to that, the Big Ten has another defending national championship with Michigan. So back-to-back defending national champs for the Big Ten Conference. As you look to compare them against really the SEC in this race the upcoming year, how do you see that between the Big Ten and the SEC? Because not only do you have a couple of titles in the last couple of years, but Penn State was in the semifinals of the playoffs last year. And the Big Ten's been really prevalent. Are they at the top of the mountain?
I'm going to put the two equal, to be honest with you. And I know I live in the Midwest, but I think when you look at the end of the season, the Big Ten will have more teams at the very top, meaning 10, 11, 12 wins at the end of the year than the SEC will. But I do think the SEC, probably the deeper conference when you get to teams 10, 11, 12, which is probably why the SEC is not going to have as many teams with the 10, 11, 12 wins. So I do think talent-wise, these two are both close. It used to be every year when I wrote the magazine, just an automatic. Put the SEC number one, SEC number one, SEC number one. But clearly, right now, they talk about a Power 4. It's really a Power 2. It's Big Ten and it's SEC, and there is a large drop-off to the ACC and Big 12. It's a Power 2 in college football, and I think whoever wins the national championship deserves to have be called the best conference in college football, so that's the Big Ten's right the last 2 years.
Well, Phil, we've talked about, tops and bottoms and some things in the middle. Is there a possible surprise out there that we haven't asked you about?
In the Big Ten?
Yeah.
I think Nebraska is probably the one team that could be that surprise team this year, based on the schedule, based on Dylan Raiola being 100% and now being a sophomore. And if they get their defensive front seven to be able to replace Hutmacher and Robinson, those two outstanding defensive tackles, they could be that surprise team that nobody's really expecting to get there because they only had 7 wins last year.
Okay, here comes the big question. 360 pages of this book. How do you write this by yourself?
It takes me 7 months. And I do it in a 3-part process. The first write-through is right after the season ends. I read through every article that's written about the team during the course of the year. And I go, okay, what kind of shape was his position last year? What happened last year? And then what's going to happen this year? I have to rewrite that final third about 3 times with this portal and freshmen and all the stuff that goes on. But I then go through a second write-through when this rosters come out and add the freshmen. And the third write-through is after talking to the coaches. I do have a great staff that dots all the I's and crosses all the T's, but it's I don't follow any other sport. I don't even watch the NFL. I just follow college football, and that's all I do all year round.
Well, the other neat thing that you get to do, there probably isn't a major award in college football you don't get to vote for. And this is a 2-parter. As you look at all these awards, Heisman, and you go on and on and on, what is the easiest one to select and what is the most difficult one to select?
Boy, that's a great question. I think probably the easiest one to select is the Heisman. You know, it's because everybody knows everything about all the candidates every single week, and it's updated, and you hear all the things about every candidate and pick it out that way. The toughest one, the one we do the most research on, is probably the Joe Moore Award, and I'm very proud to be on the Joe Moore Award committee. I'm the only non-offensive lineman or offensive line coach that's on the award. Very grateful for them having me on. These guys just break down every single offensive line. They are watching film, and they are working their butts off coming up with, and when we narrow it down to 5 and then 3 and then 1, there's arguments, dissension in the room, and there's a lot of work that goes into the Joe Moore Award.
Well, final thought, Phil. If anybody wants to buy this wonderful publication or find you online, what do they got to do?
Yeah, appreciate that very much. You know, the only 2 brick and mortar stores to go to are Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Those are the only 2 places, so don't waste your gas looking for it. But it's 360 pages. This thing's like a book when you pick it up. And 2 full pages. We give the same amount of coverage on Eastern Michigan or Western Michigan that we do on Alabama and Ohio State. Now, you can go online to philsteele.com and order it. When you do that, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge, but we give you the digital magazine absolutely free, and we update the digital all the way through September. But we also have an FCS digital magazine, which gives you 2 full pages on every FCS team. And we also have an NFL magazine up there, digital, which is 4 full pages on each NFL team. That's all at philsteele.com.
Well, Phil, it's always great visiting with you. And, you know, one of the things that it's fun for me is I make a note of everything we talked about. And then when the year's over, I kind of look back and see what your batting average is. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you know what? It's all I do is college football. I better be at the top, right?
There you go.
I've got other people that concentrate on a lot of other things, but I just focus on college football. But I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks for having me on, guys. A lot of fun talking football with you.
What a wonderful conversation with Phil Steele, who puts out this great college football preview every year. And like we said to him, Dalton, his batting average is pretty good, which is really hard, especially in this day and age with all the roster changes and all the craziness going on in college sports. So when we come back with more of the sports life, our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended, and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back from Weather Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. What a great visit with Phil Steele, who puts out Phil Steele's college football preview, as we kind of took an in-depth look at what might be in front of us for the upcoming Big Ten football season. Well, our parting shots are going to be a little different this week. We thought maybe we just take a moment to reflect on everything Phil said. And so, Dalton, as you think back to some of the comments that he made and points that he made, anything kind of stand out to you?
Oh, most certainly there is a couple of things. But first, I do want to remind everybody, make sure you give us a follow at Sports Life Now. If you missed any of that conversation with Phil Steele, we'll post it all there. We talked just about every single Big Ten football team and what the season looks like coming up. That's, again, at Sports Life Now. But to answer your question, Will, the thing that I almost found humorous in a way, because it almost feels ironic. I mean, we spend so much time talking about the rosters, who transferred where, the talent, who's compiling this list of really skilled players, who's building an empire over at their campuses. And you kept hearing Phil say when he was critiquing or evaluating teams and what maybe it projects like for the upcoming season, well, their schedule's pretty tough, so we ended up knocking him down. All of this conversation about who's where, what team has the most talent, what team has this kind of scheme, so on and so forth, we kept hearing the word schedule come out of Phil Steele's mouth, and that just goes to show how big of a factor just the matchups and schedule of it all is. And sometimes it washes away all the other work that we talk about with some of these big-time players in the Big Ten.
And Dalton, it's interesting that caught your attention because it caught mine too. Mm-hmm. And when we expanded this league to 18 teams, what did we talk about? The schedule maker could dictate who the champion is, right? And so you look at it, and going back to what Phil said, what you said, sometimes it doesn't make any difference how good you are. Because at the end of the day, how many games did you win? Nobody wants to hear about, the schedule is tough or easy. So at the end of the day, you wonder, year in and year out, what that is going to do for records, coaches' jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing we didn't talk about Northwestern or Maryland. Mm-hmm. And you wonder at some point, when does Maryland really get going? And can Northwestern reclaim some of the magic that had it just a few years ago playing for a Big Ten title? So these are things we find out, right? But the one thing I do know, every year, you can bank on it. Something happens nobody thought was going to happen, right? Every year it happens.
That's right.
Which is some of the fun. Well, as always, appreciate everybody joining us for this week's show. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler, and our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.